A peaceful afternoon in Oina. One peaceful afternoon in Oina, the sky was clear, and bright sunlight stretched across the golden rice fields. The laughter and chatter of the people echoed through the air, but suddenly, the sky began to darken. The wind picked up, and dark clouds started rolling in from afar, signaling that something terrible was about to happen. People exchanged worried glances, not realizing that this was the beginning of a disaster. Dark clouds completely covered the sky, creating a gloomy and threatening scene. The wind blew stronger, with gusts whistling through the villages, sending leaves swirling in all directions. Thunder roared, tearing through the quiet, prompting everyone to quickly seek shelter. From a distance, the first hailstones began to fall, clattering against rooftops and the ground, signaling the approaching storm. The hailstorm officially began, with large hailstones as big as eggs falling like hammers. Cars parked outside became deformed, and shattered glass flew everywhere. The roofs of houses were punctured, tiles falling with each impact, accompanied by the panicked screams of the residents. The heavy hailstones pounded everything, creating a chaotic and terrifying scene that would never be forgotten. The hailstorm officially began, with large hailstones as big as eggs falling like hammers. Cars parked outside became deformed, and shattered glass flew everywhere. The roofs of houses were punctured, tiles falling with each impact, accompanied by the panicked screams of the residents. The heavy hailstones pounded everything, creating a chaotic and terrifying scene that would never be forgotten. The main roads leading into the town were covered by a thick layer of hailstones. Vehicles moved with difficulty, many getting stuck, unable to move forward or backward. The hail not only damaged vehicles but also made the roads dangerous and difficult to navigate. Traffic police signaled vehicles to stop, staying clear of the dangerous, devastated areas. At the home of Milisevic's family, everything was destroyed. The roof tiles were shattered, each piece falling to the ground, creating a pile of rubble. Milisevic stood in the middle of his home, staring blankly at the wreckage. The hailstones continued to fall, tearing apart the once peaceful space. A lifetime's worth of possessions was now reduced to fragments. In a small village near Oina, residents gathered under a makeshift shelter, trembling in the storm. The hailstones pounded against the metal roof, creating a deafening noise. Everyone looked at each other with fearful eyes, too afraid to step outside to assess the damage. The sense of fear and helplessness was overwhelming, as no one knew how long this disaster would last. The vast cornfields, symbols of prosperity and abundance, were now just broken stalks. The unharvested corn cobs were shattered by the fierce hailstorm. Tears of the farmers fell, mingling with the rain, as they realized that this year's crops were completely destroyed. A year of hard work had vanished in an instant. In the greenhouses, the protective glass was shattered by the hailstones, with shards piercing through rows of flowers and vegetables. The scene inside the greenhouses became one of utter devastation, with plants completely destroyed. The gardeners could only stand by and watch, unable to do anything as their painstakingly nurtured work was ruined in a matter of minutes. In the town of Volo, residents rushed out into the streets after the hailstorm ended. The sight before them left everyone in shock. Shops were heavily damaged, windows shattered, and goods were swept away or destroyed. People tried to salvage what was left, but the damage was so extensive that they hardly knew where to begin. On the main roads, rescue and relief vehicles began to arrive, trying to reach the hardest-hit areas. However, the hail-covered and muddy roads hindered progress, causing the rescue vehicles to move slowly. In the meantime, local residents organized themselves to help each other, evacuating the injured and finding safer shelters. On national television, news of the hailstorm quickly spread. Live images from the scene were broadcast, shocking the entire country with the extent of the damage. Weather experts provided their assessments of the causes and necessary actions, but the people remained in a state of shock and fear. Their lives would never be the same again. The hail suppression missile system, expected to protect rural areas from disasters, now faced serious doubts. Over 400,000 missiles had been fired into the sky, but the results were nearly negligible. The millions of dollars invested seemed to have yielded little effect. People lost faith in the defense system and felt utterly powerless against nature. agricultural experts began conducting extensive damage surveys. The cornfields were devastated, fruit orchards were flattened, and irrigation systems were severely damaged. The estimated losses ran into millions of dollars, affecting not only the lives of the people but also having a significant impact on the local economy. Restoration would take a lot of time and effort. In the days following the disaster, local authorities began implementing emergency relief measures. Food, medicine, and temporary shelters were sent to the hardest-hit areas. The residents gradually began to stabilize their lives, but the fear of another hailstorm remained. They started thinking about rebuilding, but the challenges ahead were still immense.